What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about how I got recruited to play college football in high school. Now, before we get into this video, fellas, something that all college coaches look for in every single athlete that they recruit is speed, agility, and explosiveness. So if you guys would like to get faster, get more explosive, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get access to 75 plus speed and agility drills with the exact sets and reps mapped out, and we put the drills into a daily training schedule, like Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that, etc., all for you guys to follow. So again, if you guys would like to get faster, which will help you play football at the next level, again, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. All right, guys, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about a lot of personal experiences, some of the mistakes that I made in the recruiting process as a high school athlete as well. So now, first thing I want to talk about is how the whole recruiting process got started for me, right? So like, you're a freshman, sophomore in high school, maybe you're not playing on varsity yet, you're a junior finally, you start getting some varsity time, you start playing high school football, and obviously the question comes around, do you want to play in college, right? A lot of guys don't want to play in college, a lot of guys do, they maybe want to play at a high level of college football, and then some guys just want to get their school paid for to take that burden off their parents so they could go get a degree or whatever they want to do, right? I was always the kid who just wanted my school to be paid for, right? Like my family, we didn't come from a lot of money. My parents probably could not afford the tuition costs of what it might have been at some of the schools that I was looking at. So my only option really was to be able to go to college, was to get a scholarship, right? So as a junior, after that season, got some play time, got some film, we started to have college coaches come around the high school that I went to. I went to a high school in Southern California called Los Alamitos High School. So that's not the biggest high school in Southern California, but obviously it's Southern California, right? So we were like a Division II school, which would be like the equivalent of like a 5A school, not 6A, not the big dogs, but it's like just a small step below, right? So we were a public school. We were one of the bigger public schools. We were lucky enough to where like winter workouts rolled around, we had a lot of coaches coming through, like coming to workouts, coming to practices just to check out talent. Our head coach had a good relationship with a lot of coaches because he had been a coach for a long time. I think that's a good thing to look at, especially when you're trying to choose a high school as a 7th or 8th grader. Make sure your coach is a well-connected guy. But anyways, long story short, we had a coach from Yale come in. So Yale, obviously Ivy League school. I don't know grade-wise if I was an Ivy League kid, but I think I fit all the other boxes in terms of like my play style, in terms of like, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I can play. And then, just like my character, right? I was a coach's favorite. I was one of the coach's favorite players who was coachable, had a great attitude, showed up to everything. So it was obviously a highly recommended player, right? And that's what you guys should focus on with the recruiting process. A relationship with your high school head coach is so beneficial. It's more beneficial than going to any of these BS showcase camps where they claim that we're going to time your 40 and you're sitting in line for 30 minutes and then run a 40 and then you sit in line for 30 minutes and run a shuttle. Like a relationship with your high school head coach is way more beneficial than that, if he's a well-connected guy, obviously. So I meet with the Yale coaches, I talk with them, things are going great, they really like me. They say it's down to me in terms of who they want to offer a scholarship to, right? In Ivy League schools, they only offer academic scholarships, right? So I got to check some boxes, right? I was like a 3.5 GPA guy. Obviously not Ivy League level like that. And again, not knocking anybody with a 3.5. That's just not what they're looking for at that level. So it came down to me, 3.5, and a guy who went to a rival school of ours who had like a 4.0. I was better than the guy on the field. I checked off all the boxes, but I needed like a perfect ACT, right? So if I didn't get a perfect ACT, they weren't going to offer me because I didn't technically check off the boxes with the grades, right? So for any of you that have taken the SAT or the ACT, it's extremely hard to get a perfect score. So I ultimately didn't get the perfect score, lose the scholarship offer. So now I'm sitting there with nothing, right? Going into my senior year, no attention, went to some camps, and I'm going to talk about that in the next clip here with some of the mistakes that I made. But again, fellas, like you can't have all your eggs in one basket. You need to make sure that you are doing whatever possible. You can't take any other coaches that are from a smaller school not as serious because you're holding out for a bigger school. Like that was how I got introduced to the process. I didn't have a Twitter page. I never sent a DM. I never sent an email. I was just talking with one single coach. And when that one single coach moves on, you're sitting there with nothing. It can be very worrisome. But now we're going to talk about some of the other mistakes that I made and ultimately how I got a scholarship offer to play at the next level. So now after that happened, like I said, I was sitting there with not really much recruiting attention, not really much anything going into my senior year, going into the offseason of my senior year. So what do a lot of kids do in that time period when spring football ends, going into their next year of football? They go to college camps, right? Now, I've made all the mistakes that a kid could possibly make with the college camps when I played. I went to the big ones, like because we're in Southern California. So I went to USC, UCLA, I went to, what was another one? I went to Fresno State, right? I went to all the big camps. Total waste of time, total waste of money. I'm going to be dead honest with you, right? And I'm not saying it's a waste of time and waste of money for everybody. The big schools, though, like USC, UCLA, those are probably both waste of time, waste of money. Yeah, it's a good experience, but like, are you going for the experience or are you trying to play college football, right? So I go to those. Fuck, tons of kids. Like, I'm talking like 300, 400 kids, maybe even more than that. And I'm sitting there in line for 20 minutes waiting to get a rep. You get a rep, and then like the coach doesn't even watch, coach doesn't even coach you up. They're just trying to get people through as fast as they can because they got to give everybody reps, right? So kind of a waste of time. You don't know any of the coaches. None of the coaches know you because how could they? There's 400 kids there, right? So that is what you guys want to avoid with the college camps. The best success I saw with the college camp circuit is I would go to camps where there were more than one specific coach at the camp. I think they refer to them as like satellite camps, I want to say. But I went to a camp at the college that I ultimately ended up going to, which is called Whittier College. Very, very small school, but I'll talk about why I chose that school towards the end of this video. But I go to a camp and there are probably 8 to 10 different colleges at that camp. So you're getting exposure to a lot of different schools. It's a smaller school environment, still a lot of kids, but at least there's a lot of coaches there that you could maybe meet, you could follow on Twitter, because at this point I had a Twitter account set up. I was trying to follow coaches. I was trying to do the whole shindig that everybody talks about nowadays, right? I never wasted my money on a recruiting service like NCSA or some guy who promised he was going to get me offers if I paid him this amount of money. I knew that that was a total scam. That's one thing that I would say I did right. But don't waste your time going to these bigger camps, guys. The guys that they recruit at those bigger camps, because you hear about it every year, like, oh, he got an offer at the UCLA camp. Maybe if I go and do really well. Guys, if they don't know you, they're not going to look at you. That's just the harsh reality of it is. And not a lot of people will tell you that, but I will tell you that because I've been through it, right? So you go to this big college camp, the guys who they are recruiting are guys that have probably already been at the campus for 2 days on a visit. They've got the tour. They were with the coaches before the camp. They spend time with the coaches after the camp. Those are their guys. The camp is pretty much for them. And guess what? They didn't pay. And an invite to a camp where you have to pay is not an actual invite. You guys need to understand that as well. Because I got all the BS emails too. I got the emails that said, you've been invited to this camp, this showcase, but wait, it's $400. It's like, it's a total scam, guys. Don't waste your time with that. Go to camps where you actually know the coaches. I probably would have gotten more out of a camp where I went to like Yale, if they had a football camp, traveling all the way out to wherever Yale, I still don't even know where that is, but traveling all the way out to where Yale is. Doing a camp there where I actually knew the coaches and they knew me, I probably would have gotten more out of that. Even if they were offering another quarterback, at least I would have known some people there. You know what I mean? And then maybe one of those coaches goes to another school and then he recruits me to that school, guys. So don't waste your time at places where you don't know the coaches. Go to where coaches know you. You have a relationship with them, whether you've met them at your school, you've talked to them through Twitter, whatever it is. But do not make that mistake. Now, some of the camps that I went to, like I said, that were good were the satellite camps. And I went to a lot of small school camps in California, right? And those types of camps, again, those are the coaches that don't get a whole lot of publicity. They don't get a lot of athletes reaching out to them. So those types of camps, if you're a guy that just wants to play college football, those are great people to meet, great coaches to meet, and great relationships to have. So I highly recommend going to camps where you're known, going to camps where the kids size, or like the class size, if you will, is a little bit smaller, like maybe 50 to 80 kids. That is going to be a great size camp for you. But the huge camps, I honestly say, don't waste your time. Okay, so now another mistake that I made with the recruiting process was I didn't do enough on my own. I think I left it in the hands of my coaches a little bit too much, right? So like as a kid, everybody hears about hey, go on Twitter, DM as many coaches as you can. Hey, go on Twitter, follow coaches, message them, engage with them, all this stuff. And honestly, a mistake that I made was I didn't do enough of that. Like I sent out a few DMs, my mindset was always like, I'm a religious guy. It was always like, you know what? If I just put my head down and I just work, God's going to take care of it for me. And he ultimately did. And I don't think that's a bad attitude to have. But at the end of the day, you still have to put in work like that. Like putting in work with the Twitter space and, or they call it X nowadays, but, messaging coaches, DMing coaches, following coaches, engaging with their page, posting stuff, like all that stuff is like, showcasing your faith in the process that if I keep doing this, somebody's eventually going to see me. And I wish I would have done more of that. I wish I would have kind of activated or acted on that faith that I had in the process. I kind of left it to my coaches, right? So when I was going into my senior year, didn't have any offers, but my thought process was, hey, listen, if we play really well, we win league, we go win some playoff games, maybe we win it all. That was our goal, obviously, that my coach is going to take care of it and they'll get me in someplace. Right? Wrong attitude to have, because I'll tell you what happened. I did all that. We won league. got to the playoffs. I had a good season, right? And then season ends, and I remember this very clearly. I was at some like fundraising event that we had to do because I was like a team captain, and I'm sitting there and I hadn't seen my head coach because the season had ended. It had been a couple weeks, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Grant, so what are your plans for next year?" And I'm like, "Man, I thought you were working on that. Like, I didn't know." I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Like, you know what my plans are. Like, I want to play college football." And what he told me is, because I talked to him about that shortly after, I asked him like, "Hey man, like, I want to play college football." He didn't even know that I wanted to play college football. So he wasn't recruiting as hard as he could for me. So that's some advice that I could give to you guys as well. Make it known to your high school head coach that you want to play college football. Tell him, be like, "Hey coach, I just want to let you know that, like, I know it's the off season when this season ends. I know it's the off season, but I want to play college football and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to play college football." And what he'll do is he'll say, "Grant," or whoever, "I'm going to help you out with that. And I'm going to do the best I can to get you to play college football wherever it is." Or he's going to tell you what you need to work on in order to play college football. "Hey, you need to get faster. Hey, you need to get bigger. You got to be better with film. You got to be better on the field," whatever it is. And then you go do that and he sees you doing that. That's going to make him vie for you even better. So now time is running out for me. Luckily, the schools that I had went to those camps with, those smaller schools, I was in contact with them throughout the season. Luckily, just here and there, just emails back and forth. They'd see my film, they'd retweet it. I'd talk to a coach, I'd get a text from a coach, all that kind of stuff, right? Luckily, one of them pulled the trigger and gave me a scholarship offer. I remember it, it was, and again, it was not a huge school, but like I had kind of like three situations, right? I had probably about 5 offers. After I had that last meeting with my high school head coach, it went to the point where it was like, okay, I'm going to get you I'm going to try my best to get some kind of recruiting attention for you. And that's when things kind of started to take off in the process. Landed about, I would say, 5 scholarship offers, like I said, a couple from a division 2 schools in the middle of freaking nowhere. Didn't want to go there. I had a division 3 offer, which was Whittier College, where I ended up going, which is pretty much free. It was like a 95% scholarship. And then I could have had a preferred walk-on at the University of San Diego, which was a D1 school. Ultimately, I took the best offer because, like I told you, I just didn't want my parents to have to pay, and I didn't want to go to the middle of Illinois and freeze my ass off for a whole year. You know what I mean? So I took the best one. That's a totally fine option if that's what your guys' goal is. But again, just don't make those mistakes that I made. Don't waste your time with the big camps. Don't waste your money with the big camps. Make sure you're active in the recruiting process. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because again, the only way that you can learn, the only way I can teach you this stuff is by actually making the mistakes. So I'm hoping you don't make these mistakes, and I'm hoping that because you watch this video, you take some of this on your own, you don't make these mistakes in your recruiting process, and you actually can land an offer sooner than I did and don't have to deal with all the stress and the roller coaster of this specific process. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to get faster, again, 75 plus speed and agility drills, very first link in that description below. We'd love to get you on that. I'll see you guys next time.